So I guess it's time to welcome on stage Marion Sellenet.
Yes.
With a round of applause, please. Thank you very much. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Mais tu peux ouvrir ta table.
Yes.
Bien sûr, tu te mets... Je m'en occupe.
Yeah.
Plate ou gazeuse? Ok. Oh, sorry. Still or sparkling? Still. Okay.
Hello, I'm Marion, and I keep reading my text because I'm a cliché of French people, and so I didn't feel comfortable enough to improvise in English. So I'm sorry for my accent and everything. I'm a visual artist, and I'm born in France, and I'm living in Belgium, in Brussels. I'm practicing my passion through visual art, collage. Est-ce que je peux prendre le
Yes.
zip?
Tu appuies sur le verre.
Merci. Illustration, communication, animation, but I have another practice that is also considered an art, the art of living with FSHD. I'd like first to thank FSHD Europe and everyone who organized this event, and thank you all for coming here. I'm delighted to be invited to introduce this day and to share our movie that we made with Laetitia Moreau tonight, Marion on the Metamorphosis. Okay. So I never thought I'd made a movie, let alone expose my genetic peculiarity or my intimacy to the world. But I felt like a necessity. I was inspired to make this film when, looking back on my life, I was moved to see how forward I'd come. I had become a different person with a different mindset. And today, I think that in some ways my experience with FSHD has been a real blessing. And this is what I wanted to convey through this film. As I'd never made a film as a director, I teamed up with the director Laetitia Moreau, and we made this film with 4 hands to show my path through life. We didn't want it to be a classical documentary, but whether that art should have a place in it, as it's my preferred mode. Laetitia contributed her share of creativity with some brilliant imaginative staging. The film took 5 years to complete, from writing to financing and production. It was broadcast on the renowned Franco-German channel Arte. Then it replayed in 5 languages. From the feedback I had, it's reached far beyond the FSHD sphere to other people living with other diseases. I'll show you the teaser, and then I talk about my intention and the reason that brought me to make this film.
Okay.
Marion.
Mon père, ma sœur et moi, nous sommes reliés par un fil invisible. Mais longtemps, nous l'avons ignoré.
Mademoiselle Marion Sellenet, née le 18 mars, le premier diagnostic à évoquer est une dystrophie facio-scapulo-humérale. Cette maladie n'a pas de traitement, elle est incurable.
Longtemps, j'ai été harcelée par une petite voix intérieure. Tu pourras pas être heureuse avec ça. Tu pourras plus dessiner, tu pourras plus danser, tu pourras plus marcher. Un jour, tu vas finir dans un fauteuil roulant. Cette voix, elle est apparue au moment où j'ai appris que j'avais une maladie rare, la FSH. J'ai commencé une longue traversée, rongée par l'incertitude et la peur de me dégrader. L'art du collage, c'est de faire tenir des morceaux en cohérence. La FSH, elle fait tout l'inverse. Elle me fragmente. Je m'appelle Marion, je suis artiste et mon histoire ne se résume pas à ces 3 lettres.
Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to talk about this complicated moment of the diagnosis, which many of us has experienced as a real shock, a moment when life turns upside down. In my case, FSHD had not yet been detected in the family, so we had no know-how about how to live with this disease. For other families, the experience can be different when already know about FSHD because family members are affected. I was diagnosed in 2003 when I was 15. At the time, not much was known about FSHD. My father and I left the hospital empty-handed. There was nothing we can do. We hadn't been given an explanation or tools. Medicine couldn't cure me, but it could anticipate my condition, condemning me to a certain deterioration. Sorry. It was at this point that I caught a second disease, the disease of fear and despair that you get from certain tactless doctors. We also get it because for most of us, our collective imagination and unconscious is negative about illness and disability. And then, of course, there is our characters, our personality, our innate dose of optimism or pessimism. I thought my life was over, that I couldn't be happy. But, spoiler, I'm a lot happier today than I was running on 2 legs and could catch the bus. I have more symptoms today, I do fewer things, and my social network has shrunk. But I take responsibility for myself better than I did yesterday. I know myself better, I surround myself better, I manage my life better by respecting my abilities, and I really enjoy taking care of myself. But to come back to what followed the diagnostic, a year later, I went for my annual follow-up appointment with the same tactless neurologist. This time, he brought in some interns to observe my body. Young man, I was 16, and it was very embarrassing. After that, I stopped the follow-ups. But I started physiotherapy and psychotherapy. They weren't all good, some were bad, others excellent. At the time, I saw my life as a dead end. I didn't want to be that Marion, I want to reset myself. I fantasized about another life without this disease, wasting my energy and not taking advantage of the present moments that was offered to me. There is this sentence I read in a book that sums up these states very well. My mind was busy hoping rather than living, rather than being. I was become a young adult and I couldn't find the answers to my questions that I had trouble formulating clearly. How do I manage, when you are so young, to live with these symptoms? And to live with this idea of losing. Is it possible to live with this sword of Damocles hanging over the muscles of my body? I made this film to bring to light questions that we don't dare raise with our loved ones out of fear or modesty. Or conversely, that our loved ones don't dare raise with us. I think that words are important because silence can be filled with a whole host of deleterious things. What medicine didn't tell me was that I couldn't anticipate the curve of my happiness the way it could for the state of my muscle. I belatedly realized that these two curves were not necessarily going to follow each other, nor did medicine tell me that a human being is more than just a body and its biological function. It shapes and reinvents itself at every stage and even of life. It has a great capacity to adapt, and there are solutions, however small, technical or otherwise, that can improve our daily lives. Medicine doesn't know what we are going to do with this illness or what we are going to get out of this experience, and that leaves a lot to be desired. During these long years, even though life went on the outside, inside I felt quite depressed and alone, with a lot of negative ideas floating around. And this despite a loving family and caring, supportive friends. Little by little, I learned to manage the difficulty of my symptoms by looking for techniques and therapists that best suited me. I met some extraordinary therapists who developed personalized approach and were inventive. But the link with the outside world remained complicated. Here too, little by little, I entered the world of work with some positive experience, and that made me feel better. But I still felt that something was blocking me because I was still clinging to this desire to heal. And I scrutinizing every change in my body. I often heard people who didn't have my disease say that you have to accept it, or that you have to stop identifying with the disease. But when the symptoms are there 24 hours, days, it takes time to know how to put distance between ourselves and our invading symptoms. For me, all these years, I've been a work of composition, a bit like a painting. We learn to deal with the new data in all areas of our lives, social, relationships, work, health. We don't always succeed, we make mistakes, we move forwards, backwards, and it is in these moments that we can test what's right for us, figure out how to organize ourselves, how to recompose ourselves in our daily lives, and how to find balance. It's more complex than the theory of mourning, according to which, in summary, we go through several success states: denial, anger, bargaining, depression and acceptance, and reconstruction. Moreover, the word deny seems to me to have a negative connotation. I found it is a harsh way of talking about what people are going through, and even though it's an essential moment of transformation. I prefer to use the image of the butterfly and the chrysalis. You're literally in the mud, but before reborn. It's subtle, slow, invisible, and singular. But for me, this change is nourished enormously by relationships with others. I talk about these human encounters in the film. I have to thanks to our French patient association, Amis FSH, who is wonderful. But I'm not going to tell everything now. You can see maybe tonight. At some point, I realized that if I didn't have the power to change reality, it was time to act where I did have power. And that was in the way I looked at the situation. There is no manual, no ready-made recipe for feeling good with this disease, no easy way to transform the constraints and to take the disease as an opportunity to give another meanings to one's life. But neither is there an injunction to do so. Everyone has their own path and their own way of doing things. For me, the big leap was confronting myself with what my future life with a chronic illness might look like. So I met several people who, like me, has FSHD or other diseases such as multiple sclerosis, for example, including those who were in wheelchair. And there, to be honest, I was able to see the mountain of prejudice I had about disabled people, the unconscious superiority we can feel toward them. I realized that you could have a life, a job, and a lover, and family, and hobby, of course, all that without having all your limbs functional. When I was a teenager, social networks weren't that developed yet. It wasn't until quite late that I started to take advantages of all the testimonials we can see today to the internet. I remember when I came across this photo. It's Nico, who also has FSHD and who was posing for a photographer. And I said to myself, wow, it's so beautiful. He dared to expose the particularity of his body. It blew me away. Sorry, I lost my line. Thanks to those damned algorithms who have replaced cute cats with people with singular body and good vibes, I came across other profile, positive, dynamic people who assume their life with good humor and joy. And it's very important to counter the stubborn idea of drama and unhappiness. I took my interest in disability culture a step further through the writings of militant collectives that added a social and political dimension of my thinking. I discovered the concept of ableism. Ableism means, for example, valuing the use of tools, AI, digital, etc., when they are used by able-bodied people, but stigmatizing people who use these same tools, for example, to speak with a synthesized voice, to compensate for their inability to speak with their own voice, or authorizing massive home office during COVID, but refusing this measure for disability workers in normal time. I've seen some great films that challenge this notion, such as Crip Camp, Disability Revolution. I think it's still on Netflix right now. In the 70s, a group of disabilities teens find the means to mobilize thanks to an innovative summer camp that will help to them organize a movement for great equality. Take a look at This Heart, a documentary about love and sexuality in the disabled community. I think it's on Prime Video. I think this one of the best things FSHD has given me is to be generally aware about the prejudice I may have about every people's situations. Some people believe themselves to be superior to others in these respects, but are they always happier with 2 arms or 2 legs or their 2 eyes? Do they have a good relationships with their family? Do they have a job they enjoy? I would add, of course, that we can be happy only so long as society allows us to live with dignity, to have access to suitable work and to all areas of civil life. Inaccessibility is an obstacle to happiness, to work, and to relationships. And I'm not going to teach you anything about this, but it shouldn't be. That's why it's important to support these struggles. Another important point I wanted to make, paradoxically enough, is that I regained hope in my life when I came to terms with the fact that I couldn't be cured. It was the writing word, essay, podcast, and literature that helped me. The thinker behind this text, I like to call them thought artists, enabled me to redefine words and concepts to think about what I was going through. Some of their proposed framing were some of their... Je comprends pas ma phrase. I don't understand my essay.
Tu veux de l'aide?
Some of them proposed framings were astounding and act like medicine. Some of them I include in the film. I learned that good health is not a fixed standard, a perfect state to be achieved, beautiful curves to marry, good rates to have. Rather, it is above all a complex balance in which each person has their own standard. I make a pause. When you are ill, you have to let go of the concept of what people call good health, and you lose a large part of your freedom and the multitude of choices you had. But it's an illusion, even for those in perfect health. Because we all have our little problem, or will soon, and we will all be faced with decrepitude at one point or another. Whatever those who dream of eternity may say, and I'm saying that, I cannot help but salute Brian Johnson. We are a physical body made of matter, which undergoes accidents and changes. The ordeal of illness can help us realize that we are not omnipotent. Illness is a fact of life. Life is a complex balance between the beautiful and the less beautiful, the pleasant and the painful, but we tend to live in a civilization that divides things into good and bad. We see happiness as the absence of unpleasant things or defects, but harmony is rather a relationship and balance between all these things. I also come across a wonderful little book written by Carlos Bustamante, who has multiple sclerosis and which reminds me of our experience. For me, it's all about exploring your body and its capacities, trying to take into account pain or difficulty without dwelling on the feeling it produces. Living with FSHD, it's exactly this challenge. It means constantly dealing with unpleasant, even downright painful sensations, with fatigue and daily frustration. Personally, it taught me to understand how discomfort and painful turn into mental ruminations. We need to practice brain gymnastics through meditation, breathing, and other means. I think it's a very useful skill in life to understand the mechanism that link the body and to the mind. There is also this other quote that I like by Carlos Bustamante. When the life is reduced, in fact, it becomes concentrated. And finally, he says, when a new frame appears and the search for compatibility with one's one's environment can begin. One can begin to explore the world, the possibilities with the transformed body. I think there are many people on this earth, sick or not, who have no meaning in their life, who don't know how to take care of themselves, who don't know how to look for an environment suited to their needs, who can spend an entire lifetime with their certainties without moving on iota in their functioning, in their beliefs, and being completely immobile in their minds. FSHD can be the opportunity for this inner movement to move intellectually and philosophically. Of course, I'm aware there are situations that are sometimes unbearable and seriously ill patients. And that's why treatments must be found as quickly as possible. I salute all the extraordinary researchers who are working on this and who are gathered here. I thank them all. We need you. For me, scientific and medical research is perfectly compatible with our inner quest as patients. We each have our own job to do, and if we can do it together and understand each other, it will be even more effective. The common perspective is to treat people, not symptoms. In my opinion, it's necessary to invent for ourselves medicines that complement those of modern medicines. Even while waiting for an hypothetical future treatment and supporting research in every possible way, we need to live in the present and look for our own resources. We can't pin all our hopes on research only, which depends on funding, market, labs, politics, human relationships also. And because there is always people we can't treat, and those lives will be worth living. And because what kind of shared human experience would we have if disease were entirely eradicated? Personally, I think it's possible to live a healthy life with an illness, and it's up to us as patients who are experts in our own situations to create an environment around us that conducive to our well-being and to surround ourselves with positive, open-minded, ingenious people, whether in medicine or sport, whatever. And as manner of closing, I'd like to mention that some young people involved in the French Dux Foundation, dedicated to FSHD children, were meant to be here with me today, but it turned out that these young people had a very busy life indeed, with weddings, trips, or job interviews planned, so I'm alone. And so in their absence, I'd like to show a short video presenting their activities. I think it's absolutely essential to support children with FSHD as they do. It is in these crucial turning points that they need the most support to regain their self-confidence and grow into happy adults. So I show you a video.
Mother
Thank you. Thank you for listening my perfect English, and I wish you a very good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marion. Thank you very much. How inspiring, how empowering. I mean, you live a new level of experience tonight at 5:45 when you see the movie, because I saw it and it's amazing. Thank you very much, Marion.